All right, so we have our footage, we have our animation, so I'm just going to use this one as an example. And the whole idea is that we want to see both, whether you're watching it on your phone, whether you're watching on another monitor, whether it's on your computer. There's even a way of applying it and putting it into your actual scene so that it's a animated texture. But let's just do it like this. So if I look at it and we see it,
In a world where laughter was
we're
king.
just trying to get a good reference
No,
of
in a
what some of the
world.
poses are.
What do you mean, no, in a world?
It's not that kind of movie.
Oh, okay. In a land that.
No, in a land either.
In a time.
No, I don't think.
So if we look at just the poses that are actually going in there, and we look at just that beginning part, and then we see this, where it's already been started.
In a world where laughter was king.
No, in a world, Jack.
What do you mean? What do you mean, no, in a world?
It's not that kind of movie.
Oh, okay, okay.
So the first animation, and I'm playing it in what's called stepped mode. Stepped mode is basically, and let's turn on the character set just so you can see. I do have a fair amount, but there's a lot that's sort of longer. But it's just literally going, and this is how we go from frame to frame to get some of the poses. And this one's a few steps ahead. But basically the general idea is that it's very blocky. And we'll talk about step mode more, but just we can shut it off and on here. And then this is...
In a world where laughter was king.
So the idea is your first pass should not look pretty. It is basically designed to be very choppy. And you're just trying to get those main animation poses. So if you can stick those poses of when the character is supposed to do something, and when they're saying something, how is that matching to what they're saying? And if I can do that, then I go back, I go through my entire timeline, block it out, and then go back to the beginning and start adding more detail.
What do you mean, no, in a world?
It's not that kind of movie.
Oh, okay. In a land that.
No, in a land either.
In a time.
No, I don't think so.
So when you see it happening here,
Where laughter was king.
No, in a world, Jack.
What do you mean, no, in a world?
and you could start to see how the references were, right? It doesn't have to be exact. It's a reference, so I can see how the body shifts, how the arms are out, how the head is. And when you actually see a more developed version of it, when you actually see a version that has had a lot more passes and a lot more work on it, then you start to see how that actually happens. And then we can have our camera cuts and everything. So now if we see it from here,
In a world where laughter was king.
let's turn off a couple of things. Da-da-da. Okay, you're off. You're off. We'll turn that off right now. Oh, we'll keep it kind of rough. Let's see.
In a world where laughter was king.
No, in a world, Jack.
What do you mean, no, in a world?
So you'll notice there's a lot more detail, a lot more animation to it. And I also believe, if memory serves me correctly, these guys right now, we'll go over these details later, but they are actually, let's go to the perspective cam. Yes, they're smoothed out. That's why they're chopping. Go back to smooth, because I had to do a higher res render, which these, okay, there we go. that's much better. Let's go back. We'll talk later about setting up your cameras. Have an idea of where your cameras are going to be and what shots like these are going to be there. Here we go.
In a world where laughter was king.
So notice how the poses are.
No, in a world, Jack.
What do you mean, no, in a world?
It's not that kind of movie.
Oh? Okay. In a land that...
No, in a land either.
In a time...
No, in a world, Jack.
What do you mean, no, in a world?
It's not that kind of movie.
Oh? Okay. In a land that...
No, in a land either.
In a time...
Pose, pose. And that's what we're trying to get. Using this as a reference so I can see how the poses, how the footwork, how all of that is supposed to be. No. So how do we start to key that? How do we get it to this point? Well, first you need your reference, and then you basically need to have a version that will have just that setup like we went over. So I'm just going to fudge it a little bit, and I'm going to do a save as. Let's do a file save as, and let's call it my ASCII. And I'm just going to call this one demo 1. And I'm just going to show you the first few steps. But to do that, let me just delete some of the keys off of this version. So I go to the circle. Turn on the character. Actually, I don't even need to, but I'll go into the, I don't even need to touch the circle. I can just do character set body. And if I go here and just delete them out, now only his facial animation exists. Right. So then I would start to zoom into the area that I want to work with. Let's tone that down. It's a little loud.
In a world...
So I had a lead up. So I might start off. He's down here like this. So I have my character set turned on for this character. Give him a starting point by pressing S. And maybe and of course I have to turn on his controls. Body controls. We want to turn those on. There they are. And now we can get him in a pose. I'm not going to worry too much. You can do the fingers a little bit, but don't go nuts on them. You really don't have to do them at all. And also, you see my background here. I'm going to make, so I don't keep, because I brought in a set, and I want to not constantly select this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select that background environment or parts of it like this. I'm going to add a brand new layer, create a new layer, double click on it, and just change the layer name to environment. Save. And then I right click and say add selected objects. So I can shut it off and on. I could say, oh, you know what? I forgot something. And then I could right click and add selected. So now that's a part of it as well. There's a few things. So you see you can actually just add stuff to it. As well as I can click here twice, so there's an R, and you can't actually, I didn't put that one in, so we can just add it. You'll notice I can't grab the environment anymore. So that's set to an R, they're added on a layer. And the way I would do this is start to just get some of the framing in. So maybe he's here. And maybe he like kind of clears his throat or something. Maybe he walks in. We take a few steps, but I'm just going to take his hand. I'm going to rotate it up. I'm going to pull, obviously, his elbow out. Put it someplace. And ultimately, I'd want to start to mess with his fingers, and I might do it for just certain pieces like this where it might be a little bit difficult. So here's how we would do that. We would take it. Once again, we'll grab that circle. Select the names of what you want to affect and then middle mouse drag in here, left or right, to adjust it. So maybe like right here. Just have it that maybe it's like kind of something like this. And we set a key. And if I want to put that key like, oh, he's going to go back right here. Now, if I go middle mouse drag, it's going to slap the whole thing back in. So I might not want that specifically. It depends on what my animation is. If I want to affect just one thing, I turn off the character set. And then that way, when I go back and I key it, it's just going to drop it down. If I want to affect everything, all of his body, boom. Let's go to here. Rather, we just pull it down. Set a key. And then we just kind of continue on. And then as we get to this part, then I could give him a, a couple of poses. And then when we get to here, I'm going to set a key here. Let's get him back into this position. So I'd go over to here. I middle mouse drag, and you notice it doesn't change his position when I middle mouse drag. So I might just middle mouse drag up to about here. Or rather, middle mouse drag from there, set. So I just... And I have to think about not just a hand. This is the important part. But now I can change these settings here. So right now, maybe I'll go in, set a key. He's coughing there. And then right back here, bounce back to that. Maybe even get his body a little bit more positioned. But I'm spreading these out a bit. So I'm going to grab this guy. I'll move it up a little. I don't want to lock his legs, but I do want to move him up just a little bit. Maybe even just rotate the spine a little bit more. Set a key. So just to see what those keys do.
In a word,
Maybe I'll grab this, move it back. And now we're going to start to go nuts. So what does my reference say? And then you use that to get... So let's try it out.
in a world where laughter was king.
So
In a,
now I go to that reference phrase, that reference point. Let's try it out. That's a little clear the throat.
in a world,
And we get a position like this. So all I have to do is just go. Let's get him into that pose. And I'll do it sort of mirrored, but you'll see what I mean. Just because from this angle it'll look better. And I'll take this, I'll rotate it out a little bit. And I literally will just go through now and get him more into the position that I want. And I will take, let's rotate these. He's going to turn a little bit. He's being all dramatic. Move him just a slight touch. And you notice I am just getting his whole body into this. Let's say, whoops, that's too far out. But it has to be here, which means I have to take this and pull it down. That would break his wrist, so we're gonna, and you can see right here, need to get that hand out, and I need to get it up like this. And you're seeing I'm getting him in this same pose. That's why I got the reference. Then he leans a little bit to that leg. Just going to subtly move it a little bit out. And I want to make sure that my center of gravity is over that leg. I'll worry about the fingers and stuff later. But now that I'm here, I press S.
in a world where laughter was king.
And you could see I could even add a slight frame and a slight pose just by affecting that box and the spine.
In a world where laughter
So right to there, stay there. Then I want you to dip down, come back up. And I'm just taking poses from earlier on and moving. and moving them to where I want them. So let's take a quick look.
In a world where laughter was king.
But I start to block it out using that reference.
In a world where laughter was king.
I don't want to get every single one. And all the digits and all that. I'm just trying to get the pose and block. Okay? And then I will continue on moving forward doing that process. And when I want to check it, and we'll talk more about this later, step to see if it's really getting its timing, I right click in my timeline and I say enable stepped preview. And once I do that, ignore the mouth, but watch the body.
In a world where laughter was king.
Let's try that again. It's stalling because I'm recording while I'm doing it.
In a world where laughter was king.
So ignore the facial expressions in the mouth because they're not in sync with these keys I'm plugging in now.
In a world where laughter was king.
And I would just start to really look at that, and then I'd play a little bit more.
Where laughter was king.
And I say, oh, the hand rolls back and forth. But I'm not going to do that on my first pass. My first pass is just to get the timing. And I just go through, and I might even do less frames than these. Maybe half of these.
Laughter was king.
And then just keep plugging away. If you have any questions, just let me know. But that's basically how you would start to do your setup for your blockout. You might do several passes, but you're just going to keep on going back over it. Let's see what you can do.